Hello, and welcome to Candidates Up Front. This is a public interest election program of Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. Our May 16th primary election is coming up. Democrats and Republicans will vote for judges, school directors, and county, township, borough, and city officials. The deadline to register to vote is May 1st. To check your voting status, go to votepa.gov. That's vote.pa.gov. You can register, change your party, locate your polling place, or apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. The deadline to register is May 1st. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is May 9th. The League is interviewing those candidates who wanted to be interviewed in contested races. For each race, the candidates will get the same basic questions and the same amount of time to answer them. Hello, I'm Judith Cranis, a member of the League of Women Voters of Berks County. There are 6 candidates competing on the Democrat ballot for a chance to be Reading's school director. They're Shakira Yarira Del Rio Gonzalez, Noeline Betts, Melissa Eggert, Julio Martinez, Mark Detterline, and Albriani Rivas. And Democrats in voters will vote for 5 to be on the fall ballot. So you're voting for 5 out of 6. Now, school directors govern the school district. They set policy, they establish the curricula, they adopt the budget, and that determines the tax rate necessary to support the budget. They select the superintendent. They approve the appointments of staff. And about half the board is elected at each municipal election, like the one we're having on May 19th. School directors serve part-time, though they work an amazing number of hours, and they are not paid for their work. And the term is 4 years. So we're going to remind you once that the opinions expressed by our candidates are not necessarily those of the League or of BCTV. And our interview today is with Melissa Eggert. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you, Judith.
And would you tell our viewers about yourself and why you're running?
Absolutely. So my name is Melissa Eggert. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Reading. I'm a graduate of Reading High, and I just retired from 34 years as an educator in the Reading School District. And as I was asked to run, and at first I was a little hesitant because I've never really dabbled in politics too much. So, but the more I thought about it, I'm still actually consulting with the district, but I thought this might be a great opportunity to see a whole other side of the district and to also be able to help the district continue its path of improvement.
Mm-hmm. And tell us how your background prepares you to be a school director. If you want to bring in your educational background and things, that's fine.
Sure. So I do have a degree from Penn State University and a graduate degree from there as well. I have a master's in ESL education that was actually a collaboration between Penn State and the University of Tarrabo in Puerto Rico.
Let's note that's English as a second language.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
And so I apologize as an educator. Sometimes we use acronyms that we assume people know, so thank you. And as I said, I spent 34 years in the district. 31 of those years was at Riverside Elementary. And so hello to my Riverside friends. And then I actually took on a leadership role, not an administrative position, but a leadership role as the professional development facilitator for literacy. And in that role, I traveled to every elementary building and every middle school and helped support literacy instruction in the district. So I worked hand in hand with many of the administrators and almost all of the teachers in the district through coaching and classroom visits. So I feel that my breadth of knowledge and width of knowledge of the district is very strong, so that I have seen a lot of different facets of the running of a school district, not so much the budget part, so I'm going to have to do some homework on that, but I have touched on that a bit. So in my role, I took care of a lot of literacy supplies for teachers and things like that. I've also been on numerous boards, so I've been on the Berks Commission for Women, American Association of University Women, the Humane Society Board. I am currently chair of the Ethics Board for the City of Reading.
So you have a lot of board experience that you can
Yes.
take into the boardroom.
Yes, and Reading Education Foundation is a new one as well, so I'm working with them, the nonprofit that's linked to the Reading School District.
And provide some of the extras
Yes.
for the school district. You're probably well aware that school districts deal with all of society's problems, whether it's poverty, hunger, emotional illness, drug abuse. The pandemic certainly was devastating. What is the responsibility of the school board to address these issues?
I think the most important thing for the school board to do is support the administration and the staff. But within that, we also need to hold them accountable. So it's sort of a dual role where, we need to be sure we, are behind them with their ideas because they are the experts in the field. Because not everyone on the school board has an educational background, but they have other strengths, of course, if they're in business or other fields. But I think it's really important that we, while we're holding them accountable, we give them that strong support to deal with all of these things. And I think that Reading has done a very good job of addressing some of these things. We've done a lot with trauma-informed education. We've done a lot with social emotional learning throughout the pandemic. So I feel that, again, having that inside knowledge of what the district's done over the last 34 years, I think that that gives me a lot of good insight. And I think that we are already doing a good job, but can continue to do even better for our students and our families.
Tell me, are there other issues you think the school board needs to address? Things that they're not addressing now?
So another role that I'm in is the Harwood Initiative. That's a partnership between Centro Hispano, Why I'm Missing Foundation, Berks Alliance, and United Way. And I'm on the early childhood education team. And we've been going around to different groups and holding community conversations. And one of the biggest issues that couple issues, but I think it's no surprise to any of us that safety is a huge issue for our families. And I think that as much as the school can support ensuring that students are safe going to and from school, and also I think a great need in the community are for programs for students from 0 to 5 years of age to help prepare them for school, and also after school activities for older students that ensure that they're safe.
With the population as diverse as it is, there are probably many parents, and I apologize this wasn't on the list, who are not comfortable coming to talk to a school or coming to talk to a teacher. How do you think that could be made more easy for parents
Right.
to participate in their kids' education?
That's an excellent question, Judith, and I think we've been addressing that throughout my entire career. So I think that number one, teacher training, really training teachers how to reach out and make parents a partner in their child's education. So teacher training goes a long way to facilitate that discussion. Obviously, translation. We have a lot of parents who are not fluent in English, so and not just Spanish. We do have other languages, but it's mostly Spanish speaking. And I think having translation is huge, and making sure they feel comfortable with the translator and that the teacher feels comfortable. So again, training for teachers is huge for that. Also, opening the schools as community partnerships. I know at Southern and some of the other schools, I just read on the Facebook page for Reading that they're inviting community organizations in during after school programs, or even for, they have fun nights that they plan. They plan parent programming almost every month. So they actually invite the libraries or BCAP or any of the other community organizations to come in and share with parents what is available, because there are a lot of resources available for them. They just don't know about them all the time.
And that makes the parents more comfortable in the school because they've been there for something that was of interest for them.
Yes.
Okay. Now, one of the problems that I know exists is parents often move, and sometimes several times even within a school year, within the city. But the child is transferring schools each time, and that can be hard for kids to then adjust. What can be done to give these students stability?
So one of the things in the past that we've done is tried to make the curriculum as consistent as possible from classroom to classroom. Yes. So having a pacing guide that says, that way, the teachers, it guides them so that they're working on similar skills at the same time, so that they're not missing double-digit multiplication every time they move because a teacher does it at a different time in every school. So, knowing that, maybe 2 weeks in April, you do double-digit multiplication so that as kids move, they can just go right into the curriculum and it's not something foreign to them. So we try to build that consistency. It's not always easy.
So there's one piece of school that isn't as scary. The piece about meeting other new kids still going to be scary.
And some of the buildings have things in place with guidance counselors to help new students. And I think there was something else I was going to say and it totally went out of my head. But there are things in place to help those students, but it is still a challenge. But I think having that consistency in the curriculum helps them feel safer.
And obviously you have students from many other cultures and many other languages, and I think something like 44 of them is the number I've heard. I don't know if that's accurate. How can schools address the learning needs of students coming from all those backgrounds?
I feel like we have a very strong ESL department. We have the number of ESL teachers in a building is scaled based on how many ESL students are enrolled in that school. So, and those students, meet with those teachers to get the extra language development that they need, in addition to trying to get them into the regular curriculum. So they usually work on that language development first, especially our newcomers. We have programs in place for them. And then as they become more adept at English, they get to move and they're not isolated from the other students. They still go to lunch and specials and a lot of their other classes are with the other students, but they get that extra help and support with their language development from the ESL teachers.
Mm-hmm. And tell us your thoughts on the school district's programs for special education and gifted students.
So this is always a challenge because of a lot of different factors. I feel that there's always room for growth with some of these things, but in the last few years, we have tried to make sure that our special ed students and teachers, because they can sometimes feel isolated, that we work as a team. And some buildings have been more successful than others at doing this, but making sure that we are looking at the curriculum and making sure that they are scaffolded in the regular curriculum, but then also have resources to meet the students on their needs to try to close those learning gaps for them.
Mm-hmm. And do you advocate any changes to the curriculum at any level? Well, that could either be to add something or subtract
Yes,
something.
not currently. I think what needs to happen, though, is curriculum audits are important to make sure that our curriculums are always addressing the core standards and the eligible content that is assessed on our state tests. So, and those are, of course, there's a career readiness index and that will help guide us to what we need to improve on. So I think constantly doing that data analysis and that cycle of, looking at the data, seeing what where our needs are, and then improving it by either boosting programs, adding something, taking something away, looking for more innovative programs.
And what is your view of the role charter schools play in public education?
So honestly, I'm a firm believer in public education, so I'm not saying there isn't a place for alternative ed, but I think that, as a product of Reading Schools and seeing numerous successful students in my 34 years, I just feel that public education is worth supporting. So I'm not a huge proponent of charter schools, but I think that if they do exist, we need to make sure they're held accountable in the same way that public schools are.
And Pennsylvania law doesn't currently do that, so I think a lot of people are concerned about the tax money going there.
Yes.
Speaking of tax money and state involvement, we recently had a court suit that was like 10 years in the process, that our current state formula for funding schools is discriminatory and inadequate for everybody. Reading is one of the most underfunded schools in the state, and hopefully in this budget year there will be additional funds. That has not fixed the formula, so there still needs to be work to fix the formula, but most likely extra funds this year. What do you think is the most important thing to spend that money on?
So obviously, student programs are first and foremost. I'm about the students. Everything we do needs to be driven by our students. But I also think that retention of staff is a problem. The transiency of staff in Reading is almost as high as the transiency of students. So we,
dear.
we have a lot of teachers who come in, leave for various reasons. I mean, some people find a job in Reading and then find a job closer to home. So I can understand that. We have people driving 40 minutes to an hour or even longer. So I understand leaving for those reasons, but sometimes it's for other reasons and, salary and things like that, even though our salary is not the lowest in the county. But I think retention of staff is important because that consistency with our students, I think, is huge, especially when you have a transient population like we do in Reading. I think having that consistency of a classroom teacher and not, there are years that there might be 2 or 3 teachers in one classroom. So I think that's tough for kids who are already going through maybe the trauma of moving all the time, and then they have a different teacher, or 2 or 3 teachers in a year. So I think retention of staff is something we really need to focus on.
What should the district do to prepare students for the workforce? Do you feel your Reading schools are doing enough, or
yes
too
and
much, or
yes
whatever?
and no? I think we are, and I don't. And working with kindergarten through 8th grade, I don't know as much about what's going on up at the high school, but I know there are internships and there are other programs that are constantly being looked at. So I think that I think the other thing is, for a long time there was a huge push in students, go to college, go to college, go to college, and I feel like we've kind of left our trades behind. So I know it's the Career and Technology Center. I almost said VOTech. That's the old name for it. So the Career and Technology Center, I know that they do an excellent job. I've gotten to go on field trips there with 4th graders to show them what it's about. And they do an amazing job there. So I feel like building things like that, and as I said, I do believe building more and more internships, which I know the high school has been working on doing that.
Mm-hmm. And what about preparing students for further education? Are we doing enough? Do we need more? What are your views?
I think that, again, we're doing an adequate job, but there can always be more done. I think that we need to build, again, those relationships with colleges, which there are some exciting things going on at Albright with the total experience learning and getting
exciting.
students. Yes. We're also, another neat program is called the Read Alliance, where we are training high school students. I believe it's only 11th and 12th graders, but don't quote me on that one. And it's, again, a partnership with United Way, and Read Alliance has these high school students tutoring 1st graders after school and doing homework help and reading with them. So a lot of those students are interested in education. And
So next crop of teachers.
exactly, and
Cool.
there's a teacher shortage,
So
and
that's very useful.
and I don't know if you saw in the paper there, they are the state is developing a program to try to promote students to go into teaching, and Reading is already, I believe, has something in the works. And again, I apologize, I don't know as much about the high school, so I need to brush up on that. And I think, because it's such a large district and there are so many things going on, sometimes it can be hard to know everything that's going on. So as a school director, that's one of the things I really want to work on, and I've already started doing some research on those things.
Mm-hmm. If you were elected, are there some things you really want to accomplish? We have in our notes 3 things, but it could be 2, it could be 7.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
First and foremost, as I've said before, I've always been a strong advocate for our students and their families, and I think I want to continue that, finding ways that we can help support parents and, to be there for their child's first teacher. And I think that, there's all sorts of innovative programs to help our parents become their primary teacher for their student, and regardless of language as well. I think sometimes parents say they don't know English, but if they know it in Spanish, it's okay to be practicing it in Spanish with their students, and it transfers. So I think that taking that fear away from them, and again giving them all the support they possibly need, and making them feel comfortable coming for support. Innovation is the buzzword now, and I think that innovation, and that's part of my role on the Reading Education Foundation, is that innovation in education, because we're looking at a different world, and just like during the pandemic, we had to be really innovative really quickly. Everyone's tech level went skyrocketing because it was necessary, it was a necessity. So I feel that innovations in education are important, especially in our district. And community partnerships, we've done a lot with that. And again, that's part of my work with the Harwood Initiative, is building those community partnerships to strengthen support for our families and our students.
Well, I think we have about 45 seconds
Oh,
for you to make a closing
okay.
statement.
Well, I appreciate the League of Women Voters I've always loved their voters guide, so I appreciate them giving me this opportunity to let everyone know that I'm running and what my philosophies are. So, and I also, if I could put a quick plug in for, I'm running as a team with the Better Schools team, and that includes Leo Martinez and Dr. Noeline Betts. So I hope you will come out on Tuesday, May 16th and vote for Melissa Eggert and Leo Martinez and Noeline Betts, and I really thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Viewers, that was Melissa Eggert running for the Reading School Board. And please remember there are 6 candidates on the Democratic ballot. You'll be choosing 5. And the candidates are Shaika Yarira Del Rio Gonzalez. I have to try to roll my R's. It doesn't work too well. I'm not accustomed to it, but I will learn. Noeline Betts, Melissa Eggert, who is here today, Julio Martinez, Mark Detterline, and Albriana Rivas. So as you're a Democrat voter, you will be selecting 5 of the 6. And I thank you for watching Candidates Up Front. You will find the Candidates Up Front interviews on BCTV and on its website and its YouTube page. And for more information on candidates, you can go to the League's online voters guide, vote411.org. Or you can contact Berks County Election Services, elections@countyofberks.com. Their phone number is 610-478-6490. And thank you for watching Candidates Up Front.